Okay, so we're actually on to the presentation stage with our book. So I have my script typed up over here, and I have my PowerPoint over here. So what I want you to do is just, first of all, make sure it lines up. So I have my hook, which is in bold here. And so when I give my presentation, I'm going to have this slide up, and I'm going to say, how long could you survive stranded alone in the wilderness? And I'm going to go to the next slide. Set in the northern woods of Canada, Brian Robeson is left alone to fend for himself. And then I'm going to go to the next slide. For anyone who loves nature, adventure, and action, I would highly recommend reading. And then I'm going to go to the next slide. Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. And then I'm going to go to the last slide. Will he survive, find food, or be rescued? You'll have to read to find out. And so each slide lines up. So this is just the intro slide where I'm talking about it with the hook. And then I'm telling about the setting where it's set in the northern woods of Canada. So this picture is describing what I'm talking about. And I get all the way to this because I'm still describing it. And then I talk about just a couple bullet points for anyone who loves nature, adventure, and action. I don't have sentences, I don't have paragraphs up here because if I had a whole bunch for you to read, nobody wants to read it. So instead what I do is I just highlight the big words, the exciting stuff, the nature, adventure, action, or you could even have the name of the book and the author again, but more than likely something that's going to describe the book. And then I would highly recommend Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. So again, the slide is describing what I'm talking about. And then at the very end, will he survive, find food, or be rescued? You'll have to read to find out. So I'll have you practice it a few times, rehearse it over and over and over. And what I want you to do is kind of imagine a picture in your head for each one of these things as you're saying it. A lot of times when I'm going to present, I start out with the whole script, and then I just get one or two key words to prompt me or to tell me, hey, this is coming up. And so my first word might be survive. Survive. There we go. And that's going to remind me to ask this question. And then the next one is the setting. So I might say northern woods, because I know that's the next thing I'm talking about. And I might even, northern woods. I might even say fend to remind me that I have that sentence about fending for himself. And then the next one is up on the slide, nature, adventure, and action. For anyone who loves nature, action, adventure, and action, I would highly recommend reading Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. I don't know if I'm going to need anything for that, but I'll go ahead and put nature, adventure, action, and then just the book, and then I'm going to put survive again, if I can get, there we go. So I have a few keywords that are going to remind me about what I'm going to talk about. So I don't have to write out all these sentences. I might print it out just so I can try to memorize it. The more I say it, the more I'm going to remember. But eventually I'm going to try to get just down to prompts. And so I just have a word or two to remind me of what this says, and then eventually I'm going to present. So then what it looks like when you're actually presenting, the people will see this screen. They might be looking at you, but they'll also be looking at the screen. And if the screen has to do with what you're talking about, they're a lot more likely to look at it. So when I present, this is what everybody's going to see. And using those keywords, I'm going to say, how long could you survive stranded alone in the wilderness? Set in the northern woods of Canada, Brian Robeson is left alone to fend for himself. For anyone who loves nature, adventure, and action, I would highly recommend Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. Will he survive, find food, or be rescued? You'll have to read to find out. So that's what the presentation is going to look like for them. And the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll be with it. This is a book that you know about. Like, this is your book, this is your thing. It's not like you're talking about something you're not familiar with. And so even if you change a few words on accident, it's no big deal. You might not recite it exactly the way that this is written, maybe I say for the nature, adventure, and action lovers or something like that. It doesn't make any difference because nobody else knows what this says. All they know is what you're presenting. So I think that's about it. We'll practice a few times. We'll give you the opportunity to go through. If you want to borrow the clicker, you can. But this is something where we're all learning, and guess what? We're all going to mess up, and so you don't have to worry about doing it perfectly because we're all going to mess up, and that's part of it. And then we learn from it and we grow from it, because that's the whole goal of this, is just that we learn and we grow and we get more comfortable doing it. So I hope that answers your questions on how we're going to do this. I believe that's it.